Perfect. So we'll kick off now, and I'm sure as time goes on, more people will join. But hello, everyone, and welcome to Makers Demo Day. I'm Anastasia, and I'm the client partner admin here at Makers. And we've got some wonderful presentations in store for us today, which I'm really excited to see. And I know that our devs have been working incredibly hard to get to this stage. So today is a celebration of all of their hard work and their achievements. So, as you know, we are makers, and our mission is to transform lives and organizations by bridging the gap between tech industry needs and underdiscovered talent. So, a little bit more about our makers. They are a passionate and dedicated group of individuals, and they're ready to make an impact in the tech industry. They've worked hard to develop both their technical and collaborative skills, showing consistent growth and determination along the way. So, in terms of their skills and growth, they've gained essential skills and a solid technical foundation, learning programming languages and problem solving techniques, and they've continuously pushed themselves to expand their knowledge and their capabilities. So, during their time at bootcamp, they've built a strong foundation before diving into their chosen specialism, applying their knowledge to real world projects, which we'll be seeing today. And so, in terms of collaboration innovation through teamwork, they've developed not only technical skills, but also the ability to collaborate, communicate, and innovate, driving each project forward with creativity and teamwork. So, after all of their hard work, our makers are excited to present their final projects. These projects demonstrate their growth, their creativity, and the impressive skills that they've developed during their time at bootcamp. And so, just a little bit of housekeeping. We ask that you please stay muted for the duration of today's presentations. Each presentation should last around 10 minutes. And if you have any questions at the end, I'm sure you can either put them in the chat or ask them, and then after each team presents. But yeah, that's all from me. Now let's hear from Lottie, who will give us more info about what our devs have been working on.
Hi, thanks so much, Anna. Yeah, I'm Lottie. I'm one of the tech coaches here at Makers. I've been with this cohort for the last 4 weeks or so. They've actually been with us at Makers for about 14 weeks at this point. So they started off from a range of backgrounds, a range of different experiences with code, but really starting off with the basics with Python. They got to the point of building web apps in Python, and then they had to go and learn a whole new language and learn JavaScript as well and React. So it's been, a huge amount to learn in a short space of time, but they've all absolutely smashed it. They've done a few group projects over the course of the bootcamp, but this final project, they've completely conceptualized from the beginning. So all the ideas are their own. The architecture is that they've come up with, and they've completely self-organized these projects as well. So very little input from me. And it's really, actually remarkable what they come up with, and I'm very, very proud of all of them, actually. Yeah, there's not much else to say. I'm going to let the project speak for themselves. And yeah, you're going to love it. So the first team we're going to hear from is My Everest team. Are you ready?
We are ready. I'll do the awkward bit. Can you hear me? Brilliant. And I'll just share my screen. And then the next awkward bit, can you see the screen? Okay. Brilliant. I'm going to introduce My Everest to you, and the team that I was working with consists of Chris, Louis, Rebecca, and myself. And just want to introduce My Everest. So there's a lot of research out there about setting goals, wanting to achieve, and which is something that connects many of us, if not all. Your goal could be as simple as wanting to stay at home, watch TV, play video games all day. It could be to reach the summit of the tallest mountains or be the founder of the next big startup. And I want you to take a moment now just to think about something from that mental list of goals that you might have rattling around your brain for a while. And what is it that you need to do to actually achieve that goal? So our team started thinking about bucket lists, and ironically, we picked the first name out of a hat and decided we were going to be called the Bucket Brigade. But we're not here to put out fires. We actually want to help people keep that flame alive and work towards achieving their goals. So we designed something to help people track their own bucket list goals and milestones that they need to reach and along the way. And the idea is quite simple. When you write things down and track your progress, you're more likely to stay accountable and achieve them. What makes our idea a little different is the social element. And the goal is not just to track your dreams, but to keep a supportive community around achieving them. And it's still a work in progress, but we're excited about where it could go. And with that said, I'll hand over to Chris.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we the planning of everything. We spent most of our first day on Excalidraw creating wireframes for our projects. We tried to keep them as simple as possible, as we needed to have the MVP by Thursday. After creating a basic idea, we color coordinated what was essential, and what was going to be part of the extras, which was yellow. While doing this, we created a user story to help us navigate, or how a user would navigate around the site, which you can see down in the bottom left. Once we finished with Excalidraw, we jumped onto Trello, which we created 6 cards for, one for each web page for the MVP, covering both the front end and the back end. So whoever picked it up owned it from end to end. We also ran through the larger merges in pairs with both the creator and a reviewer. So we had at least 2 people who understood how things worked. That cut down on handovers and gave us the ability to jump on each other's work more frequently and comfortably if anyone found any bugs. After that, after we finished with the MVP, we jumped back onto Excalidraw and spent a few hours on creating an MVP plus, and what we thought we could do within the given time frame and what we'd like to do if we had some extra time, which you can see on the right there. We had another look at the database and sorted out the models, and we split up ideas into must-haves and nice-to-haves later, which you can see with the yellow and the red. And yeah, so after that, so for our stand-ups, we did 9:30s in the morning, 2 o'clock small checkups in case anyone had any blockers, and a quick retro at the end of the day. And this, kept us in a steady loop and made sure everyone was having fun and not having too much trouble. And I'll hand over to Louis, who's going to go through the demo.
Sure. So we start on the welcome page. I'm going to log in as Ben Walker, I believe is my name. Yeah, the really long password. So here's the public Everest page. So you can see all of the Everest that people have posted, things they want to achieve, things they have achieved. So the ones in green are completed and the orange ones are incomplete. So there's lots of different things. Fear of heights, land job, collect every thimble known to man. It's an interesting one. Yeah, it shows the range of ambitions people have. Master the fine art of watching paint dry. Let's have a look at this one. Dave Smith. Interesting guy. So I feel bad that he's achieved this thing and he hasn't got any comments, so I'm gonna give him some encouragement. Proud of you, Dave. There we go. So I'm going to go to my profile now. And you can see I've got a few Everest. One of them is complete. Some of them aren't complete yet. And here's my bio. I'm a software engineer. My bio is written in the third person because I'm just that kind of guy. So I recently finished this one. I learned to play the drums. Got some nice comments here. So I hit this last milestone, so I'm going to tick that off. And it's turned green, so I've completed it. Learn to paint. So this is one, I didn't really know where to get started with this, so I put a question to the community in the description to see if I could get some suggestions on where to start. So I've just got one milestone so far. And oh, it's Dave. So Dave's given me some points on where to get started with painting. I think I'll just copy and paste these. Seems like a good plan. Pick up a simple starter kit. Follow a beginner guide. Practice painting something new every week for a month. Good plan. Cheers, Dave. Good guy. So I'm going to go back to my profile. I'm going to tick that one off because I made a plan. And I want to create a new Everest now. So I'm feeling a bit unfit. So I want to get into running. And my goal here is to run a 5K race. Build up to it. And I'll add a few milestones along the way. I'm going to start today. It's always best to start today. I'll give myself till the end of the year. So start off small, buy a decent pair of running shoes. Then I run 1K, small steps. Then complete a couch to 5K training plan. And then finally, I want to sign up for a local 5K race and hopefully finish it. There we go. So I'll hit create. And you can see it there on my profile. So I've added it. And that's it. And by the way, the video background was jittery because of the recording. It's not usually like that. I'll hand over to Rebecca now.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go over a few challenges that we faced when doing the project. So I think as usual, this comes with projects like this. We had a bit of difficulty with the MVP scoping, just because we had so many ideas about what we wanted the app to include. So it was difficult to really narrow it down to something that would be functional but like unique, and we could build it within those first couple of days. Again, around using Git, so the collaboration with that, dealing with the merges and the conflicts. What we did with that was like we had a clear process of where we were making pull requests regularly. We worked in a logical order. So, for example, all the feature code would be pushed so someone else could pull it to work on the styling. So we tried to do it in that order to avoid kind of having to come back to things or any issues later. When we did reviews, we did it as a group or in pairs, so it really helped that way to deal with things quite quickly. One of the biggest issues we faced too was implementation of some of the features. So for example, the image upload feature, we had quite a few blockers with that. Initially it was the authentication caused problems, and that took quite a while to debug. But then once that was sorted, the next challenge was getting the upload feature to work across multiple pages without that breaking things, which wasn't happening. So by the time we got to our feature freeze on Wednesday, we made the call to drop it, just so we didn't risk affecting the rest of the app. And we felt that the time was better spent working on the features and the styling that we already had. But it's like looking back, I think if we were to do that feature again, it would be knowing that we should allow more time, knowing that the authentication is going to be an issue, and having it as like a reusable component from the start, so that way any issues would be isolated and we could easily drop it in and out of our pages without it then causing issues to the app as a whole. So further to that, in terms of testing, we did get quite good test coverage. So it was 86% overall. It was just shy of the 90% goal. But what we noticed was that quite a few of our files were at 0% coverage. But I think what we would do then moving forward with that is maybe taking a bit more time to test, just getting that balance between building the app and then running the test, but also doing some research to know what files to exclude from our coverage, as some of them just wouldn't have needed testing, and that could be bringing our score down a little bit. So moving on to like what went well with the app, the successes. So I think, as you've seen from Chris's slides, the planning that we did really meant that the project overall ran smoothly. We met our MVP deadline with all the core features. We had it broken down by our MVP, MVP plus, MVP plus plus. So it was quite sort of straightforward then to where we needed to go to progress with that. As well as that, having our user stories well defined and achievable from the start. So as you can see, these are the initial user stories we started with, and we did achieve all of these. So the user could add an Everest to their Everest, they could view them and their milestones, and they can tick off each Everest when they completed it. So in the end, we ended up with a quite sleek, really clean to use project app, which matched the user needs that we set out at the start. So overall, it went quite well. And I'll hand back over to Wasim.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I'm just going to finish up on what we feel the direction of MyEverest could have gone in if we had more time and maybe some funding too, who knows. So we thought about being able to add dates to milestones and link milestones and tag them to comments, things like adding images, seeing a progress bar to help the user visualize their progress. Being able to follow people in particular Everests of interest, create that group community feeling through creating groups based on mutual Everest, copy an Everest as your own as a template, the starting point for yourself, and then potentially some AI support to help create milestones. If you were struggling to figure out what steps you need to take to achieve your goal, you might want some AI support if the community is not helpful. And we just want to finish on saying a big thank you to our peers and coaches and the wider Makers team that have supported us on this journey and helped us to achieve this goal of ours. So thank you.
Absolutely fantastic, all of you. Genuinely, when I got to have a little play with this app yesterday and all of the big images of mountains and everything, I was just like, oh, I'm genuinely feeling quite inspired to set myself some big ambitious goals here. Love it. Have we got any questions for this team? I've got one then. What was the most fun part of working on this together?
I'm happy to jump in and start us off, guys,
Yeah,
and you can follow. You know, I really think it was actually the planning and sort of getting to grips with what the MVP was going to look like, and the struggle it was to kind of not cull ideas, but sort of rein ourselves in a little bit. And that was really fun to think, actually, in 2 weeks' time, what we could achieve and what this could look like in the future. And then actually bouncing ideas off each other and spending the time implementing those features. In some cases, it was in pairs, in some cases, it was individually. But then, you know, laughing at each other with the styling choices we were making and changing them in the background without the others knowing, you know, things like that. It was a fun project to work on.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think that being able to really brutally prioritize and de-scope stuff is kind of an underrated skill. So I'm so glad to have seen you like really smash that actually and get something really, really good in the time. Yeah, because 2 weeks is not long to build this stuff. Fantastic. If there are any other questions for this team, then do drop them in the chat. In the meantime, we can always come back to it. But otherwise, we'll move on to the second team, which is the Safe Run team. Are you ready?
I believe so. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a lovely afternoon. MyEverest is now making sure this is done seamlessly. Let's see. I believe it's worked. Hopefully you'll be able to see a presentation on there. Fantastic. I'm going to assume that it's all working. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our Makers Final project presentation. This is brought to you by the Neighbourhood Watch, which is Emma Ferrari, Zahair Khan, Elena Magia, and myself, Scott Oswald. So without further ado, let's introduce you to our app, which is Safe Run. So this is an app for if you go for a run, you can let someone know you're running just in case. So before we go into the app itself, let's just talk about how we started off. So we knew we had our MVP on Thursday, but we thought it was very important to plan. So we started on Tuesday because of the bank holiday. So we spent around 2 days planning, which I think everyone on our team, speak for everyone, was a good idea. So first of all, we got to know each other. Luckily, we've done this course now for, as Lottie said, 14 weeks, and we'd each worked on other projects beforehand, people on the team. So that was pretty straightforward. We came up with ideas on Google Docs and having a voting system, but we was pretty unanimous and we came up with this safety running app idea. We designed our MVP and had our team charter. I'll talk about those in just a moment. And then after that, we implemented our tickets on Trello, and kind of a dealer's choice in how people wanted to set up their tickets. But you can see there's some examples, and like the checkpoint system, maybe talking about front end or back end, and make sure on our stand-ups to talk about those. Let's just talk about the team charter. So as you see on the left there, we talked about our working practices, which we liked. An example of something we've learned in the past is to have regular breaks and to make sure we knew when our lunches were. So we made sure to talk about that on Slack, just keeping honest communication. And then you can see on the right as well, a rough schedule for each day, which to be fair, we did kind of stick to, apart from certain days when we had bugs and things like this. But let's talk about that MVP. So this is a design which we had. By the way, for all of your designing needs, I'm sure Elena and Z will agree with me. Please go to Emma. She is a designing maestro. So as you can see here, this is our MVP. Relatively simple, but we knew we had that early deadline to get to. But enough with me talking. Let's go on to our demo. Without further ado, I'll pass you on to Elena. Over to you, Elena.
Thank you, Scott. We built our web app SafeRun, which we designed specifically for mobile users. In this demo, Josephine chooses the timer-based option, setting her run for 2 minutes. As soon as she taps start a run, her friend gets a message letting them know she's going for a run and how long she plans to run for. If she needs to extend her run, there's an option to add 15 minutes, which instantly updates her friend with the new finish time. When Josephine is ready to finish her run and taps on Save End Session, her friend is notified that she's finished her run and all is well. And I'll pass it to you, Emma.
Lovely. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set up another run. So again, this time for just 2 minutes. And again, her friend is notified as soon as that run starts. But mid-run, something doesn't seem quite right. So she feels a need, so she taps on her panic button. So this sends an alert immediately to her friend and asks them to check in with her. We're going to head out on another run. This time, everything goes well for Josephine. So she completes her run without any problems at all. So when the timer ends, SafeRun automatically prompts her to check in. So for demo purposes, we've set it to 10 seconds, but typically it would be about 5 minutes. So she's given those 5 minutes to confirm if she is safe. Just a quick tap. So if she doesn't respond within that window, her friend will be alerted, letting them know that she hasn't yet checked in, and as expected, and she might need a bit of a follow-up. It's a really simple but powerful safety net. And if she is okay, just busy and forgot, she can clear that alert at any time by just tapping I'm safe. Over to Z for the next part of the demonstration.
Cheers, thank you, Emma. So I'm going to walk you through one of SafeRun's core features, our location-based tracking system. Let's follow Rachel as she sets up her account details here. You know, she's entering some details, got a bit of profile information, her preferred time of day to run, and she'll get onto the emergency contact section. So Phoebe, perfect choice really, since with her Unagi, she'd probably sense danger before Rachel even realizes she's in trouble. Now, let's get us logged in. There we go. Now here's where the magic happens. Our session type toggle, the app explains how this works. Start point is automatic, click to set destination, and make sure your location services are enabled and you'll be tracked in real time. You can see these instructions in that box. And oh look, we have a lovely section here with inspirational quotes to help us along our journey. Perfect, that's very nice. So with our app, we're using GeoApify API here integrated with React Leaflet to render these interactive maps, which gives us accurate real-time location services. Right now, I think Rachel's trying to decide if she wants to go on a long or short run. So let's give her a bit of time to figure that out. She's going to zoom in, and I guess she has finalized her decision any minute now. There we go. And you'll see some metrics being populated into the web app, calculating the distance and an estimated runtime. It's really nice. So Rachel started her run. This is an active session screen, and the interface shows her some helpful metrics for her run. Phoebe gets an automatic notification that Rachel has started her run and will be updated when she's safe. Right. And now the map updates in real time. We'll see a blue location marker very shortly, but I think Rachel is catching up with the crew at Central Perk before she sets off. So let's give her a bit of time. But there we go. We see something peeking out ever so slightly from the green marker. We'll zoom in to give a bit of a better visibility on that. But this sets us up nicely for our check-ins. So you'll be able to see a timer right there above the map that signifies the next check-in. So for the purposes of our demo, we've set this to 1 minute intervals, and the app will prompt her with a safety check-in, sort of pop up as a modal for Rachel to notify us whether she's safe and happy to continue the run or she'd like to let emergency contact. And Shazam, there we go. Right, so Rachel, what's your choice? You want to carry on with the run? I think she will. There we go. So back to the run, and we're going to follow along with her to see how she gets on. Awesome. Oh, she seems to be quite in a hurry. I think, Rachel, not to worry, Safe Run has you covered. So Rachel's just going along her journey. She is probably going to be prompted by another check-in. As for the demo purposes, it's a 1 minute interval just to check in on her, see if she needs to alert her safety contact. There we go. And when she reaches within the 100 meters of her destination, the app automatically detects she's arrived safely and ends the session sort of momentarily now. And just like clockwork, Phoebe will immediately receive a confirmation message that Rachel has safely finished her run. And that should set us off for the end of our demo. There we go.
Thank you so much, Z. As we finish off our presentation, I'm going to pass you now on to Emma. We're going to talk a little bit about design. Over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Scott. So yeah, for our design implementation then, we went with Tailwind and Daisy UI. This gave us a really clean, easy to navigate UI with a really slick and almost neon aesthetic, which is perfect for a nighttime safety app like SafeRun. So why did we use these tools? Well, first of all, convenience. So myself and Scott had already used this combination on a previous project. So it made a lot of sense for us to build on something that was familiar. Second, it's simple and accessible. So Elena and Z were able to pick it up quickly and start contributing with those elements right away. And then finally, it just looks good. So Tailwind and Daisy UI gives you a lot out of the box. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we stood on the shoulders of giants, which gave us a lot more time to focus on our core features of the app. Back to you, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. I'll just talk briefly about communication. I'm sure lots of other teams' Slacks were popping off during these last couple of weeks, and we would utilize it for everything for, of course, PR check. Shout out to Elena, who is a PR maestro as well, of doing those pull requests, whether we'd be late for, from breaks or lunches, things like that, all things of communication. And also, as you can see there, Z loves a meme, because as we all know, that a picture says 1,000 words, but a meme paints 1,000 pictures. So there's our Slack. Let's just move on to our GitHub method as well. Nothing super new here. I'm sure lots of teams did the same. We tried to be actually relatively verbose with our descriptions, just so people knew what was going on, and indeed with our commit structure as well, committing little and often. Also, you can see we utilized some comments as well. Here's just an example of we hard-coded a name, so just made sure that we're aware of it. And on the top right, you can see as well, we implemented in our settings that if I was to make a pull request, I couldn't merge it myself. It could only be Z, Emma, or Elena. And then also it had to be reviewed. You'll see some numbers on the bottom right. I'm sure all of you are aware as well of all this, of how much effort it goes into making these things, and a lot of coffee consumed as well. But I don't know about you. One of my love languages is words of affirmation. It's also my favorite coding language as well, second to Python maybe. But as you can see, lots of encouragement from the team. And we'll finish this off now with Z. So over to you, Z.
Cheers. Thank you, Scott. So you might be wondering how we built all these features in our sprint timeframe. And the answer is ruthless prioritization. We use the Trello Kanban board as previously seen to manage our workflow, but this impact versus effort grid was our North Star. We tackled our do first features, location tracking, emergency contact messaging, and the panic button, and then moved on to our do next items like the inspirational quotes and inactivity detection for a better user experience. Social features and community sharing were parked as do later if time permitted, and profile customization was categorized as do last. This framework kept us laser focused and delivering a working safety solution rather than getting distracted by some nice to have features that wouldn't fundamentally solve our users' safety concerns. The result, a streamlined, reliable safety system that does exactly what our runners need most, keeps them connected to help them when they need it, and gives their loved ones a peace of mind. So now we need your help. Help us make Run Safe better. Next slide, please, Scott. Visit this link to trial the web app and share your thoughts and feedback. You'll need to grab your own API key from Geo Apify, but feel free to contact us through GitHub or your means of choice. But thank you. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.
Like, knockout. Amazing. Well done, guys. Have we got any questions for this group from the... Oh, yes, we have one in the chat. How close did you come to deployment if you had more time?
Well, very close. We've deployed it. So we've got the back end and the front end deployed. So as Scott showed you on that slide, visit that link, give us your feedback, and let us know what you think. You will need your own API key from Geo Apify, but other than that, just go crazy on the app.
Amazing. We've got a question from Amy.
Yeah, sorry. So I was really curious to hear about how you guys approached like test scenarios and stuff. Did you include that in your kind of prioritization? For example, one thing I was thinking of is, what if I want to run in a big circle and end up back at home? Did you consider those kind of things during development and how to test that?
Yeah, I can take the location-based questions. So I sort of had a bit of a ruffle around with the documentation, and we had a very tight feedback loop with our testing strategy. So mocking our APIs in order to not hit our rate limits, we sort of tested quite a few of these edge cases. So you're absolutely right, the circular runs, using a different formula. So initially a blog post directed me to a distance calculation, which didn't necessarily take into consideration circular runs. So using Haversine formula instead, which was better placed. And that only came up through rigorous testing and then realizing, oh, okay, this sort of breaks with this edge case, so we need to refine and go again. So yeah, absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there. It was a lot of back and forth with testing, and I think I've come to realize the true utility of test-driven development just based on playing around with maps and playing around with these API keys.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you very much.
Always good to hear when people come around to TDD by the end of the course. Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. Any more questions for this group? Do stick them in the chat, otherwise we'll move on to our third and final group. Last but not least, we've got the group known as Amy. You can explain what that means.
Can everybody hear me and see a blue screen?
Yes.
Fabulous. So we've had an app to design goals and an app with neon color schemes. Interesting. So I'm going to talk to you about Amy, which looks like this, and our journey to mastering the bass guitar. I was singing in a rock band, sorry. It was flying a commercial airline. Oh no, it was baking a Victoria sponge. Ah no, it was building an LLM-fed goal planner. So what problem were we trying to solve? Or better articulated, what was our aiming? As a user, we wanted to create a plan we were confident following that helps us achieve a goal. And we wanted to do that with maintainable, scalable, readable, and testable code. We got to just over 90% test coverage. And I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of a demo of our product. So first thing I'm going to do is sign in, and I'm going to sign in using my Google account. And you can see I've got 5 plans that have been created previously. And the top one is build an incredible Victoria sponge. I'm going to click on that and have a look at my plan. You can see I set my success criteria, how much time I want to dedicate to it, and the progress bar shows me I'm about a third of the way through. I've ticked off one of my activities from week 1, and then if Mark of the Past can click on week 2, you can see I've ticked off 2 of my activities from week 2, and then on week 3 now, my first activity is bake another sponge cake to improve skills. So Mark of the Past is going to tick on that one now. Hopefully we'll see the progress bar update. And I'm going to refresh the browser and we can see that all of the changes persist. So now I'm going to create a new plan. As it happens, my daughter and I were singing the Black Alicia song Alphabet Aerobics this morning. So I'm going to create a plan and I'm going to do it on my mobile device to learn all of the lyrics to Alphabet Aerobics. And I'm going to say I'm going to want to dedicate 5 minutes a day to this. Now we hit our LLM and almost instantaneously I'm returned with a perfect plan to learn the song that I want to learn. That was a very whistle-stop tour. I'm going to pass over to John, who's going to tell you more.
Thanks very much, Mark. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our tech stack choices here. So it was already going to be an ambitious project for us to be building an AI integrated app. And so we wanted to remove some of the blockers. In order to do that, we went for a kind of reliable modern stack so that we could focus on developing our MVP in the time frame allowed rather than focusing on sort of boilerplate setup. Key to this was Next.js, which allowed us to have a unified front and back end, intuitive file-based routing, and less integration issues. We used Daisy UI and Tailwind for rapid styling and a consistent UI and theme throughout. MongoDB gave us a flexible schema so that we didn't have any blockers as we iterated on the data that was being returned by the LLM. We used Clerk for robust authentication, just came with some simple components for tracking user status and protecting routes in the app. And then we used Google Auth in order to kind of have a solid user experience for login and sign up, and something that would be scalable if we wanted to implement further Google APIs. There was always going to be this issue of how do we share knowledge between the team in order to keep us on track. So we did that at the start by having a bit of an introduction to the stack we were going to use, in particular how Next.js was going to work, and devise some data flow diagrams. We regularly pair programmed and reviewed codes, each other's code and in pairs, and several group reviews as well. We had some documentation and shared snippets of code, which lowered the barrier to contributing. We had a big group debugging session, a couple of those, which turned challenges into collective learning opportunities. The result was everyone gained confidence across the stack and not just in their own tasks. And that's all from me. I'm going to hand over to Aliana now.
Thank you, John. So I'm going to talk about how the backend system have integrated AI. So we used the OpenAI model. We also designed and refined our prompt through prompt engineering. We also implemented normalization logic, and we created mock OpenAI data for our testing. So here's a data flow of our prompt engineering. You can see that our data is returned from the front-end form and it sends it over to our server. From there, that is where we've implemented the progression of our prompt. Thank you. So this is the first version of our prompt, and we kind of tested it out to see what to expect from our OpenAI responses. And it led us to the second version, but we found there was still a lot of inconsistencies over there, and loads of issues in terms of the comments being returned within the data, which led us to our very final prompt where we implemented a template so that it exactly returns what we want from the OpenAI API endpoint. And this is why we've also implemented the normalization logic, because the responses were very inconsistent. And MongoDB didn't like anything that was injected into our data that was like a comment or sort of there's the inconsistencies that come within it. And it also had issues with our front end because it couldn't handle empty results. So here's now our data flow, just completing the flow of the response from the OpenAI endpoint into our server and our normalization logic. And this is the overall holistic view of our data journey. From there, it gets stored into our database and it assigns it an ID, and it goes back into our server. And then it goes back into our front-end form, which redirects the page to our results. And it goes through the same process to assign our result an ID into our database. And it goes back into the results page for our user to track and tick off the boxes and see how far along they are with their plan. And for mocking and testing, we've realized that it would cost a lot of money if we didn't mock. So we made sure that our OpenAI keys were securely stored in our env local file. So when we push things on GitHub, it doesn't get sent to everyone. And therefore, we've mocked our network requests and our OpenAI endpoints for a faster and more reliable test. And over to you, Lucy.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk about teamwork. So we had 2 weeks to do this project, and many of us had not worked together in paired programming or as a team before. We decided that success looked like to work well as a team, to build software using Next.js and OpenAI. So the first thing we did was we came up with a meeting plan, so how often we'd meet every day, and we decided to do a stand-up in the morning, a stand-up in the afternoon, and then a retro at the end of the day if we felt like we needed one. And we did all of this in our Slack huddle, as Lottie will know. Our team goals were kind of threefold. We decided we wanted to write readable code that anyone in the team could go on GitHub and review and understand what was going on and the changes. We wanted to upskill ourselves, all of us individually, in how to use AI in the back end. And we wanted to have as a code base over 90% test coverage. In terms of leadership, we kind of decided not to have a leader. We did voting as a team on decisions, but it's worth mentioning that John was kind of our unofficial head of engineering because of previous experience that he had. So for the first 2 days, he very much took us through the tech stack and explained it to us, and he created a README for it as well. So this is fun. This was the final prompt that we used, and it felt very full circle. I asked our app, Amy, to come up with a 2-week plan on how to do teamwork to build our app, Amy, and it has a week 1 and week 2. And strangely enough, it kind of says exactly what we did, which we really liked because it was very validating for us to have our LLM return something that is very user-friendly and relatable, but also consistent. So at the end of week 1, we were having problems related to basically AI, and we were all feeling slightly overwhelmed and stressed because of the new tech stack, but mostly because using OpenAI was a bit like having a 5th team member that would sometimes go rogue and change all the variable names without asking for permission to do that and add in comments and things. So we were all a bit overwhelmed, and we went to Lottie, and Lottie said, do a retro, always do a retro. So we did, and this is what that looked like. And we basically voted on areas that we were most confident in and thought were going really well, and areas that we thought were going to kind of bring us down in terms of motivation. And then we made a plan on how to remotivate ourselves and how to deal with the LLM and things that we were struggling with. And then going into week 2, we felt much better about it in general. And just one more thing, famously said Steve Jobs, our app is actually deployed, as you can see here, sort of, or maybe you can't because of focusing. But basically, this is currently on Mark's API key. So if anyone is interested in trying it out, please do message us, and Mark will send you the URL. But don't go too wild, because we don't want to drive up his bills too much. But please do test it out, because it's really great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Sorry, I was seeing something in the chat. Amazing, guys. It's very gratifying to see people using processes that you've been learning over the course of the bootcamp, like retros, and being able to just take them and run with them and make them your own and get real value out of that. That's exactly the point. So fantastic. Well done. Has anyone got questions for this team? Stick them in the chat or raise hands. Z.
Yeah, first of all, like, amazing job, guys. I can clearly see that being a product I'd be using. So, Mark, expect an inbox very soon. But I would like to ask, I think you mentioned it collectively. AI was that sort of rogue team member, and I wanted to know, like, what was your ways of tackling those sort of tricky things? I think your team processes were really, really intriguing and very well thought out. So it'd be great to know, and something that I could learn off as well.
I'm happy to take this one, if that's okay. Yeah, so in terms of the data that was probably the biggest blocker for us was getting used to the inconsistency of data returned from an LLM. So we had to incorporate some sort of normalization strategy there, so that before saving it to a database, it was consistent. And then once you had that consistent data, it was much easier to work with on the front end. The other thing, a big part of that was sort of the prompt engineering sort of side of it, and we developed that over time. We tried to take some of the mental load off AI by like calculating the number of weeks specified in the range of dates from the user, rather than get it to do that in a sort of variable way. And then additionally, Lottie sort of popped in a bit towards the end and said, well, we've been having a look at some of this and recommend but perhaps you're a bit more specific with your prompt through like a template. So just towards the end, we introduced that, and we gave it kind of very specific parameters of this is what the data should look like. And that really did actually kind of increase the reliability of what we were getting. I don't know if that is answering your question.
No, that hits the nail on the head, because I'm very interested in creating an app with a sort of a GPT wrapper. So this is a great template to work off, and great job, guys, again.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yes, there was a little bit of slightly too little too late advice, but I think you all on prompt engineering from me, but you absolutely smashed it. You all know a hell of a lot more about prompt engineering than I do by this point. Really wonderful work, all three groups. I'm like genuinely quite moved and very, very proud of what you've all achieved in the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks minus bank holiday, by the way. And not only have you created genuinely impressive products, but seeing you put into practice, all not only the sort of literal coding skills, but all of that team working skill and those processes that you've built up over time through all these engineering projects, and you've really sort of made your own and figured out what works for you, and how it is that people make good software with sustainable working practices, right? Because this has not been a hackathon. This has been a 2-week stint of real software development work, making production quality software. And it's just, it's really, really cool to see. I'm dead proud of you all. You should all be dead proud of yourselves. Thank you all so much. And thank you everyone for coming to watch. I'm going to hand back over to Anna.
Thanks, Lottie. Thank you to everyone. It was so lovely seeing all of your wonderful presentations. You can see that you've really put time and effort into it, and it was a real joy to watch. But thank you to everyone. Hope you have a wonderful, sunny and bright weekend. And take care.